Hi everyone, this is Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today I am going to dip dye to create some tonal variations in a pink yarn using Kool-Aid and food coloring. I'm going to use pink lemonade Kool-Aid as the acid source and some of the pink, and supplement that with McCormick's neon pink. I'm going to dye 100 grams of 100% wool of the Andes yarn today. So I've just started heating up. This is 8 cups of water, and as I said, the only acid source is going to be the citric acid that was in this Kool-Aid. And then to this dye bath, I'm going to add 40 drops of neon pink dye. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Now I have dyed yarn with a pink yarn with this exact mixture of colors before, and although it looks pretty red on camera right now, I was really happy with the results. So I'm now going to turn up the heat and let this come to start bubbling before we start dyeing the yarn. Our dye bath is bubbling, so I'm now going to reduce the heat and dip dye our 100 grams of 100% wool yarn in this dye bath. Now this could go quickly, I'm not sure, I haven't dip dyed specifically in this mix before, but I'm not going for a dramatic gradient, but more of a subtle one. So I am adding most of the yarn relatively quickly. Yeah, we've already got a nice gradient, and you can even see the difference between the darkest portion of our yarn and the lightest. I'm going to check the color. There's very little color left in here, just a, that's hot, a tiny bit of pink. So I'm going to let this sit in the pot for 5 minutes and then remove the yarn. 5 minutes have passed and the water is now clear. So I am going to remove the yarn from the pot so it can cool. Eek. Letting some of the water drip out. Then I'm going to show you that in not a lot of time we got this really nice gradient from like a deep salmon to a nice pale pink. I'm going to let this cool completely before we wash the yarn. Let's wash our cool pink yarn. It has cooled completely to room temperature. And as you can see, at first rinse, all of the dye is in the fiber. And I just added some green Dawn dish soap to help rinse out the yarn. Unlike some of the other yarns and fiber we've dyed with Kool-Aid recently, this only has 1 package of Kool-Aid. And, okay, there's a faint amount of pink bleeding, but nothing so bad. I will keep washing this and rinsing it until the water runs clear. Here is the finished dried yarn. We got a really deep bright pink all the way to a pale pink. And this yarn goes very well tonally with the yarn I dyed with these exact proportions of Kool-Aid and liquid food coloring. So I am thrilled with how this came out. The color changes are really subtle, but also really regular, so that you could try to plan out your project to get some cool pooling, or in your project just have a subtle kettle dyed effect from this dip dyed yarn. Here is the finished dyed yarn wound into a cake. I wanted to show this so that way you could get a sense of how the variation of color kind of mixes together. So it's almost a nice approximation for the kind of variation and pops of color you could see when you knit up your yarn. Thank you so much for joining me for this dyeing video. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and if you want to be notified when I release a new yarn dyeing video or when I start a live stream, make sure you subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. Thanks for watching!